The starship Horizon glided silently through the expanse of space, its polished hull reflecting distant stars like tiny diamonds scattered across velvet. Captain Elias Gray stood at the bridge, his hands resting lightly on the railing, eyes fixed on the glowing point ahead, the planet Lumeria. Humanity had only recently discovered intelligent life beyond their solar system, and this planet was home to one of the most advanced alien civilizations yet known. The Lumerians, with their elegant architecture, glowing cities, and curious but cautious people, had intrigued humanity for decades. And now Elias was about to meet one of their most important figures, Princess Solara. Elias adjusted his uniform and took a deep breath. He had been trained for diplomacy, for negotiation, and for the careful navigation of alien customs, but nothing could have prepared him for the mixture of awe and nervousness he felt. He had read countless reports on Lumerian culture, how they valued logic and elegance over raw emotion, how their rituals were precise and often intimidating. Yet the idea of meeting a real Lumerian princess made his heart race in ways he hadn't expected. The landing platform stretched out before the horizon, a sweeping structure of glowing white material that shimmered like liquid light. As the shuttle descended, Elias could see the vast city beyond, towers spiraling skyward, connected by bridges that seemed almost weightless, and streets filled with creatures of all shapes, each moving with a grace that seemed almost choreographed. The sheer scale and beauty of Lumeria made his human senses reel. When the shuttle landed, a delegation of Lumerians awaited. They were tall, with pale luminescent skin and eyes that seemed to reflect the very light of the stars. Their faces were serene, their expressions unreadable. Elias was greeted by Ambassador Lyran, an elder of the court, who bowed slightly before extending a slender hand. "Welcome to Lumeria, Captain Gray," Lyran said, his voice melodic but precise. "We are pleased that humanity has sent a representative. Princess Solara will see you shortly." Elias nodded, bowing slightly in return. "Thank you, Ambassador. It's an honor to be here." He followed Lyran through the palace corridors, each one more breathtaking than the last. Walls shimmered with living patterns, shifting colors that seemed to pulse gently with a rhythm all their own. Soft music, alien yet strangely comforting, filled the air. Elias felt like he had stepped into a dream, or perhaps a world that existed entirely outside human imagination. Finally, they arrived at the audience chamber. The doors, towering and translucent, slid open silently, and there she was. Princess Solara stood at the center, a vision of alien elegance. Her form was slender but commanding, her skin faintly glowing in a pale blue hue. Her hair, long and silver, fell like a waterfall over her shoulders, shimmering as if touched by starlight. Her eyes, large and luminous, regarded Elias with quiet curiosity, and for a moment, he felt as if she could see straight into his thoughts. Elias swallowed and stepped forward, bowing with as much grace as he could manage. "Princess Solara, I am Captain Elias Gray of the United Earth Fleet. It is an honor to meet you." Solara inclined her head slightly, a gesture almost imperceptible, but Elias understood it as acknowledgement. "Captain Gray," she said, her voice soft but resonant, "you are far from your homeworld. Tell me, what is it that humans bring to Lumeria?" Elias hesitated, aware that his answer could carry enormous weight. Diplomacy was delicate here. Lumerians were intelligent, cautious, and deeply perceptive, but he realized that a formal speech wouldn't reach her. He needed something more personal. "I brought something small," he said, reaching into his satchel. "A gift from Earth. It may seem simple, but it carries meaning." From his bag, he produced a handcrafted music box. Its surface was polished wood, etched with tiny carvings of trees, mountains, and rivers, symbols of the earth he called home. Elias wound the key and opened it. A gentle, lilting melody filled the chamber, soft and warm, almost hesitant as it floated through the air. For a long moment, Princess Solara said nothing, her large eyes fixed on the music box, and Elias worried he had misjudged the appropriateness of the gift. Then slowly a change came over her. She leaned slightly closer, her glowing eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and wonder. "This sound," she murmured almost to herself, "is unlike anything I have heard. It is simple yet beautiful." Elias felt a rush of relief. "It is a human creation," he said. "We make music not only for ceremony or display, but for enjoyment. It is meant to share emotion, to connect people. Solara's gaze softened, and for the first time Elias saw a flicker of genuine emotion in a Lemurian face. Humans, she said, her voice thoughtful, create beauty in ways that are unfamiliar to us. You bring not power, not technology, but something personal. That is, intriguing. The courtiers around them whispered quietly, their usually composed expressions betraying curiosity and surprise. Elias realized that this small gift had already begun to ripple through the room. A simple gesture, a piece of music had captured the attention of a civilization that valued sophistication and intellect above all. As the melody played on, Solara reached out delicately, turning the music box in her hands. "Tell me," she said, "why did you choose this gift?" Elias smiled a little nervously. "Because I wanted to show that humans are more than our technology and our diplomacy. We create beauty for each other. We hope that something so small can make someone feel something beyond duty or obligation." Solara considered his words, her luminous eyes studying him. Then almost imperceptibly she smiled. It was a small gesture, but it carried more warmth than anything Elias had expected. "Captain Gray," she said finally, "your gift, it moves me. It is unexpected, and yet it is appreciated." Elias bowed again, heart pounding. "I am glad it reached you, Princess. That was all I hoped for." For the rest of the afternoon, Elias and Solara spoke. Not of politics, not of treaties, but of Earth, of human culture, of music, of the stars. He described sunsets and forests, rivers and mountains, and she listened, fascinated. In turn, she described Lemurian cities, their floating gardens, and the patterns of light that marked their seasons. Elias realized that despite the vast differences between their worlds, there was a shared curiosity, a shared wonder that connected them. As evening approached, the glow of Lemurian twilight filled the chamber. Solara placed the music box on a pedestal near a window, where its soft light mingled with the glow of the city beyond. "Perhaps," she said, "this can remain here, a reminder of something new, something human that has come to our world." Elias felt a quiet pride. One small gift, one simple act, had created a connection that no treaty, no formal ceremony could achieve. It was a bridge between worlds, built not of power or technology, but of understanding and care. As he prepared to leave the chamber, he realized something profound. Humans were capable of touching the hearts of alien civilizations in ways that no one had anticipated. A music box, a melody, a thoughtfulness. These were tools of connection as powerful as any weapon, as valuable as any technology. And for the first time in his career, Elias Gray understood that humanity's greatest strength might not be in its strength at all, but in its creativity, its curiosity, and its capacity to feel, and to make others feel. Outside, the city of Lemuria stretched endlessly, a wonder of architecture and light. Inside, a music box played softly, a symbol of the unexpected bond that had begun between a human and an alien princess, a bond that neither world could yet imagine the full extent of. For Elias, it was the start of something extraordinary, and he knew that this meeting would be remembered, not for politics or power, but for the simplest of gestures that carried the deepest of meanings. The soft notes of the music box lingered in the air long after Captain Elias Gray had stepped back, leaving Princess Solara to study it in quiet contemplation. The palace chamber seemed larger now, not because of its physical space, but because of the unspoken connection that had begun to form. Courtiers whispered among themselves, their usual calm and composed demeanors softened by curiosity. Solara turned the box over in her delicate hands, observing the carvings of mountains, rivers, and forests etched into the wooden surface. She had seen many gifts from alien dignitaries before, but none carried this sense of warmth, this echo of life and emotion. The Lemurians valued precision and technological marvels, yet here was a human creation, simple, delicate, yet full of meaning. "What is this sound?" Solara asked herself quietly, tilting her head. She replayed the melody in her mind, letting it roll over her thoughts again and again. Unlike the structured music of Lemuria, which was mathematically perfect, this melody had slight imperfections, subtle variations in rhythm and tone. Somehow it made her feel alive. Elias, still present in the room as part of his diplomatic duty, noticed her lingering gaze. "It is a melody from Earth," he said. "Humans make music to express emotions. We do not always have words for what we feel, so we use sound." Solara's large eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dim light of the chamber. Emotions. You feel them so openly? She asked. Humans allow themselves to be moved by beauty? Elias nodded. Yes, we try to capture moments, feelings, and memories in our creations. Music, art, literature, they are ways to connect with others, to share something that words alone cannot express. Solara's lips curved into a thoughtful expression. She had always known about human creativity from reports, but experiencing it firsthand was different. Reports could describe human achievements, but they could not capture the feeling, the emotion, the connection. For the first time, she understood that humans were not merely creatures of survival and technology. They were beings capable of profound thought, imagination, and kindness. The courtiers murmured softly, some approaching to examine the music box from a distance. Even among them, there was a hint of fascination. A simple gift, a small human creation, had managed to disrupt the usual order of the court. Captain Gray, Solara said finally, her voice carrying a tone of curiosity. Why did you choose something so simple? Elias smiled. Because I wanted to show that humans are more than power and diplomacy. We create beauty for each other, not for reward or ceremony. I wanted you to feel something from our world, not through grand gestures but through a small piece of what we value. Solara considered his words, her glowing eyes softening. It isn't rare, she said. In Lumeria, gifts are often symbols of wealth or status. Few are given purely for meaning. Your gesture, it carries honesty. It carries intent. The princess's words surprised Elias. He had expected politeness, even gratitude, but he did not expect such thoughtful recognition from someone who rarely showed emotion. I am honored, he said simply. That was exactly what I hoped for. For a long while they did not speak, letting the music play softly. Elias watched as Solara traced the carved trees with a slender finger, tilting her head to follow the winding rivers etched into the wood. There was something mesmerizing about her curiosity, a genuine interest that went beyond diplomacy or expectation. He realized that this small music box had done what no negotiation or treaty could. It had opened a window into her mind and heart. Later, the court retired to observe the evening ceremonies, leaving Elias and Solara alone in the chamber. The room's light dimmed to a soft blue glow, reflecting the Lemurian twilight outside. Solara placed the music box on a nearby pedestal, yet her eyes lingered on it as though it had become a living part of the room. Captain Gray, she said after a pause, may I ask you about your world, about humans? I want to understand more. If you do not mind, Elias's heart lifted. Few Lumerians had ever asked personal questions of a human diplomat. I would be glad to, he replied. What would you like to know? Everything, she said, her voice filled with a mixture of seriousness and childlike curiosity. How do humans live? What do we value? What is your culture like? Your families, your cities, your forests, rivers, mountains. Do you truly have such places as described? Elias laughed softly. Yes, Earth is vast and full of life. Our forests are thick and green. Our rivers wide and teeming with creatures. We have mountains that rise high above the clouds. Deserts that stretch endlessly. Oceans deeper than the tallest towers. And humans. We try to create beauty within it all. Music, art, stories. We express ourselves through what we build, what we create, and what we share with others. Solara listened intently, her gaze distant, imagining these places. Humans were strange to her, creatures of flesh and emotion, yet capable of great ingenuity. Yet in Elias's words she sensed honesty, a sincerity rarely found among alien emissaries. She found herself wanting to know more, to understand not just the world but the people behind it. You speak of emotions, of beauty, of connection, she said. Do humans fear loss? Do you fear that your creations may not last? Elias nodded. Yes, we do. But that is what makes them meaningful. We create because it matters in the moment, because it can touch someone else's heart. Even if it fades or is lost, the feeling it evokes is real and lasting. Solara paused, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she reached out and touched the music box. It is true, she said softly. I feel it, I feel something unfamiliar yet comforting, your gift. It carries more than sound. It carries intent. It carries life. Elias felt a warmth in his chest. This was not just a diplomatic victory. It was a connection. a bridge between species. He realized that the Lumerians, for all their intelligence and elegance, were not immune to the simplicity of human thoughtfulness. Over the next several hours, Solara asked more questions and Elias answered as best as he could. They spoke of Earth's seasons, its cities, its people. He described children playing in open fields, artists painting in quiet studios, musicians performing in concert halls. She asked him about the stars and he described the galaxies, nebulae, and planets he had seen on his journeys. Through their conversation, Elias began to see a side of Solara that few others had witnessed. She was not only a princess and heir to a great civilization, she was a thinker, a dreamer, and someone who craved knowledge and understanding. She was curious not just about humans but about the universe itself. And in her curiosity, she found herself inspired by the small, simple things humans valued. The night passed, and the music box continued to play softly, marking the rhythm of their conversation. Courtiers peeked in occasionally, observing from the shadows, but Solara did not seem to notice or care. Elias realized that in that chamber, they had created a small world of their own, one where human creativity and alien intellect met in quiet harmony. As the first light of Lumerian dawn began to filter through the tall windows, Solara finally spoke. "Captain Gray, you have given me something unexpected. Not power, not technology, but understanding. You have shown me a part of your world, a part of your people, and I am grateful." Elias bowed slightly. "That is all I hoped for, Princess. I did not come to impress, only to share." Solara's eyes softened. "Then you have succeeded? More than you know." Before Elias left the chamber that morning, Solara walked him to the palace doors. She looked back at the music box on its pedestal, then at him. "Captain Gray, I would like you to stay, if only a little longer. There is much more I wish to learn from you, and perhaps you can learn from us as well." Elias smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he had never felt before. What had started as a simple gesture, a small music box, had grown into the beginning of something extraordinary. It was more than diplomacy. It was the first step in building a bridge between humans and Lumerians, a connection based on understanding, curiosity, and the simple beauty of sharing a piece of oneself. The days that followed the music box's introduction were unlike any Elias Gray had experienced in his long career. Lumeria's court, usually formal and rigid, seemed subtly transformed by the presence of a human and a small gift. It was not the grandeur of diplomacy or the impressive technology that had captured attention. It was the simple, heartfelt gesture of sharing a melody. Princess Solara had invited Elias to stay within the palace longer than originally planned. She claimed that understanding humans required more than a single meeting. Elias quickly realized it was a mix of curiosity, genuine interest, and perhaps a quiet desire for companionship. Each morning they would meet in the palace's observation wing, where translucent walls offered sweeping views of Lumeria's cities and skyways. From this vantage, Elias could see the living gardens floating above the city, glimmering bridges connecting towers, and alien citizens moving with graceful precision. "Captain Gray," Solara said one morning, her luminous eyes fixed on the horizon, "I wish to understand your world more. Humans speak of freedom, of creativity, of emotion. You seem different from what our report suggested." Elias smiled. "I hope I show you the real humanity, Princess. Not just our technology or politics, but our lives, the simple, meaningful parts." Solara turned to him, curiosity shining in her eyes. "Tell me about your friends, your family, your Earth. What do humans do when they are not working or fighting?" Elias leaned back, considering. "We create. We sing, paint, write, build, explore. We gather with friends, share stories, laugh, and sometimes cry. We value connection above all else, friends, family, companions. That is why I chose the music box. It is human, but it carries meaning." Solara listened, intrigued. She had spent her entire life in a palace of rules and expectations, where emotions were carefully measured and rarely displayed. To hear of humans who lived so openly, who celebrated connection and creativity, was both fascinating and strange. "I would like to see this." "Earth," Solara said quietly. "Not through reports or images, but through your eyes, your stories." Elias felt a warmth he could not describe. Here was a princess, heir to a powerful civilization, expressing a desire to understand humans in a way no diplomat had before. "I can tell you stories," he said, "about sunsets, oceans, mountains, forests, about people and their dreams." And so he began. He spoke of forests where sunlight danced through leaves, rivers where children played, oceans that stretched endlessly, and mountains that touched the clouds. He described cities full of laughter, marketplaces bustling with life, and the small, intimate moments that made life human. Solara listened, rapt, occasionally asking questions that surprised him in their depth and insight. "Do humans ever fail?" she asked one day, her gaze distant. "Do you fail often and yet continue?" Elias nodded. "All the time. Failure is part of who we are. It teaches us, strengthens us. Without failure we cannot grow, and without risk we cannot achieve anything meaningful." Solara's expression softened. "Perhaps that is what I admire about humans. You embrace uncertainty, yet you keep moving forward." The weeks passed, and the small music box remained a constant presence in their meetings. Its melody, gentle and unassuming, became a symbol of something larger, a bridge between two worlds. Elias noticed that Solara began to carry herself differently, her usual calm formality now tinged with curiosity and warmth. Courtiers whispered, some openly marveling at the human who had so subtly influenced the princess. Yet outside the palace walls, tensions were rising. The neighboring empire, the Krylax, had long watched Lumeria's alliances with humans with suspicion. Reports of human ingenuity and bravery, combined with the unusual openness between Elias and Solara, had reached their leaders. Some Krylax commanders viewed humans as unpredictable, potentially dangerous, and undeserving of trust. Rumors of border skirmishes and territorial disputes began to spread, creating an undercurrent of unease. One evening, as Elias and Solara watched the glowing Lumerian skyline, she spoke of these concerns. "The Krylax, they do not trust your kind. They see humans as unpredictable, perhaps even reckless, and yet I believe they do not understand the strength of your world." Elias frowned. "They fear what they don't understand. Humans may seem chaotic, but we adapt. We work together. We find solutions even under pressure." Solara nodded thoughtfully. "I see it in you. I see it in your gift, your words, your patience, and that gives me hope that humanity could be a friend to Lumeria, not a threat." The music box chimed softly in the corner of the room, a reminder of the small beginnings that had led to this moment. Elias realized that while politics and technology were critical, the simple act of sharing had opened a path toward trust. In the days that followed, Solara began to involve Elias in more than just cultural discussions. She took him to observe the palace gardens where exotic plants floated in midair, their roots intertwined with streams of glowing energy. She introduced him to scholars and engineers, allowing him to share human ideas about problem-solving, creativity, and innovation. Each conversation, each shared idea, strengthened the bridge between human ingenuity and Lumerian intelligence. One afternoon, a council meeting was held to discuss the growing threat from the Krylax. Solara invited Elias to attend as an observer, though his presence was unusual in such formal settings. The council chambers were vast, circular, and filled with elders whose eyes glowed faintly with authority. Discussions were precise, logical, and at times harsh. Elias listened, careful not to interrupt, but observing how Lumerians approached conflict differently than humans. "Your humans," one elder said, voice sharp, "are unknown quantities. They have technology, they have ideas, but can they truly understand Lumeria? Can they be trusted?" Solara rose gracefully. "I have observed Captain Gray. He is patient, thoughtful, and intelligent. His people may be different, but they bring value, creativity, and perspective. We should not dismiss them based on fear alone." The chamber fell silent. Elias could see the weight of her words. Lumerians valued logic and evidence above all, and Solara's defense was unusual yet compelling. She continued, explaining how human ingenuity had solved complex problems with minimal resources, how their adaptability was an asset, and how small gestures, like the music box, could open doors that force and strategy could not. By the time the council meeting ended, Elias felt both pride and caution. Lumerians were listening, yet the Krylax threat loomed, reminding him that admiration alone could not ensure safety. Humanity's creativity and courage would soon be tested in ways far beyond a music box or conversation. That evening, Elias and Solara walked along the palace skyway, watching the city lights shimmer below. "I have learned much from you, Captain Gray," she said softly. "Not only about your people, but about the value of patience, connection, and courage." Elias smiled. And I have learned much from you, Princess. Lumeria is not just a world of rules and precision. It is a place of beauty, of intellect, of possibility. And you make it even more remarkable. Silara's eyes glowed faintly, and she paused, looking at him with a mixture of curiosity and something deeper. Perhaps that is what we both need, she said. To understand each other, to bridge worlds not just with treaties, but with knowledge, trust, and friendship, Elias nodded. I think that is exactly what we are doing. As the night deepened, the soft melody of the music box played from the palace chamber. It had become more than a gift. It was a symbol of trust, understanding, and the promise that two very different civilizations could learn from one another. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the beginning of a partnership that could change the course of both worlds. Inside, a human and an alien princess walked together, sharing thoughts, ideas, and dreams. They were not just diplomat and royalty. They were explorers of connection, pioneers of understanding, and witnesses to the potential of what could be achieved when hearts and minds opened across galaxies. The days ahead would test their courage and their wisdom. But for now, Elias Gray and Princess Solara had discovered something extraordinary, a friendship built on curiosity, respect, and the unexpected power of a simple, thoughtful gift. The Palace of Lumeria shimmered in the glow of the twin suns, casting long golden reflections across the translucent walkways and floating gardens. Captain Elias Gray walked alongside Princess Solara, their steps measured, their minds alert. Though the previous weeks had been filled with conversation, curiosity, and discovery, a shadow now loomed over their fragile peace. Reports of Krylax aggression had grown more urgent. Skirmishes at the outer borders, intercepted communications filled with threats, and intelligence suggesting a planned incursion all indicated that the neighboring empire would not tolerate Lumerian alliances with humans for much longer. Solara had called an emergency council to discuss the threat. The elders of Lumeria, beings of great wisdom and formidable intellect, gathered in a circular chamber that stretched high above the palace floors. Their luminous eyes were sharp and their expressions even sharper. Every word, every gesture carried weight. Elias observed quietly, understanding that this council was far more than a formality. It was where decisions could shape the fate of millions. The Krylax question our motives, one elder said, his tone rigid and cold. They see humans as unpredictable. They perceive the alliance as a threat, and yet they underestimate us, Princess Solara. We must respond with precision, not sentiment. Solara stood tall, her silver hair shimmering as she addressed the council. I am aware of the Krylax perspective, she began, and yet I believe they do not fully understand what humans can bring to our world. They see only chaos, but they do not see creativity, courage, or the capacity to adapt. A murmur ran through the chamber. It was unusual for a princess to speak so boldly, especially in the presence of elders who valued logic over intuition. Elias felt a quiet admiration for her. Solara's words were not merely statements. They were challenges to the norms of her people, yet delivered with authority and care. Elias stepped forward, speaking softly but firmly. If I may, Princess Solara, he said. Humans may be unpredictable, but we are resilient. We adapt, we work together, and we face challenges with determination. The Krylax may see unpredictability as a threat, but it can also be a strength, if used wisely. Solara glanced at him, a faint smile playing at her lips. His words had always carried honesty, grounded in experience, and now in this chamber of calculated intellect, they added weight. Your presence is unusual, human, another elder said. Yet your reasoning holds merit. Tell us, Captain Gray, how would your people respond to the Krylax? Elias considered his words carefully. We would observe, gather intelligence, and seek to understand their intentions. We would offer solutions that minimize conflict using creativity, diplomacy, and strategy. But we would also act decisively when necessary. Humans are not reckless, we weigh risk, adapt, and act. Solara's gaze softened and she placed a hand on his arm. Captain Gray speaks truthfully, and that is why I trust him, not blindly, but because I have seen the wisdom and courage of your kind. The council deliberated, weighing the threat and possible responses. Hours passed. Tension filled the air like static electricity. Yet throughout it all, Solara remained calm. guided by both her intellect and the lessons she had learned from Elias. Finally, she spoke again. "We will not act out of fear. We will not let the Krylax dictate our choices. We will show them that alliances based on trust and cooperation are stronger than those built on suspicion and aggression." Her words drew murmurs of approval and dissent alike. Some elders nodded, recognizing the wisdom of measured action. Others frowned, unconvinced that humans could be trusted. Silara's courage, however, had set the tone. She would act boldly, and those who followed her would have to adapt. Elias felt a surge of respect. Silara was not only a princess, she was a leader, willing to challenge norms, to take calculated risks for the sake of peace, and her decision to trust humans, to see them as partners rather than mere curiosities, spoke volumes about her vision for Lumeria. That evening, Silara invited Elias to the palace gardens. Floating plants glowed softly in the twilight, their roots intertwined with streams of energy that shimmered like liquid light. They walked side by side, the soft melody of the music box echoing faintly from the chamber nearby. "Captain Gray," she said, "the Krylax will not wait forever. If we wish to demonstrate the value of humanity to Lumeria, and to show the Krylax the strength of our alliance, we must act soon. Are your people willing to help?" Elias nodded. "Yes, humans are adaptable. We can work with your technology, your strategies, and your knowledge to create solutions the Krylax cannot anticipate." Silara's eyes glowed softly. "Then we will do it. Together." Over the next several days, Elias worked alongside Lumerian engineers, strategists, and scholars. They combined human ingenuity with Lumerian technology, developing innovative methods to secure borders, detect threats, and create defenses that were both subtle and effective. Silara participated actively, learning from Elias while offering her own insights. Their collaboration was a delicate dance of intellect and creativity, blending two very different approaches to problem-solving. One morning, an urgent message arrived. A Krylax delegation had crossed into contested space, testing Lumeria's defenses. It was a show of force, a challenge to their authority. The council convened immediately. "We must respond," one elder said. "Any hesitation will be perceived as weakness." Silara stood firm. "We will respond, but not with aggression alone. We will demonstrate strength, intelligence, and collaboration. Captain Gray, we will need your guidance." Elias stepped forward, outlining a plan that combined human adaptability with Lumerian technology. Sensors would detect movement before it became a threat. Communication channels would remain secure, and subtle maneuvers would allow Lumerians to position defenses strategically without appearing overtly hostile. The council agreed, albeit reluctantly. The plan required trust, not only in humans but in Silara's leadership. The princess's courage inspired others. They followed her lead, though some still questioned the outcome. As the operation commenced, Elias observed from the control chamber. Lumerian ships moved with precision, their energy beams scanning for intruders. Human tactics, adapted to alien technology, provided unexpected solutions. The Krylax, confronted with a combination of predictability and innovation, hesitated. Their initial aggression faltered, giving Lumeria the upper hand without a single shot fired. Silara watched the operation unfold, her eyes bright with determination. "Captain Gray," she said softly, "we did it. Together, we've shown them that collaboration can achieve what aggression cannot." Elias smiled, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "Yes, Princess, and this is only the beginning. The bridge between our worlds is stronger now than ever." After the operation, the council convened once more. Even the most skeptical elders acknowledged the success of the joint effort. Silara addressed them with quiet authority. "We have demonstrated the value of partnership, not only with humans but within Lumeria itself. Courage, creativity, and collaboration have secured our borders without unnecessary conflict. Let this be a lesson. Fear should not dictate our actions. Trust, ingenuity, and courage can achieve far more." The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words settling over everyone present. Elias realized that Silara's willingness to act boldly, inspired by human creativity and courage, had changed the course of Lumerian history. That evening, Silara invited Elias to walk along the skyway. The twin suns had set, leaving a canopy of stars that stretched endlessly above the city. Floating gardens glowed faintly, casting reflections on the translucent walkways. "Captain Gray, she said, her voice thoughtful. Your presence has changed more than I expected. Not only have you brought knowledge and creativity, but you have also inspired me to see possibilities I might never have considered. Elias looked at her, admiration and respect in his eyes. And you, Princess, have shown me that even in the most advanced civilizations, courage and curiosity can make all the difference. Humans and Lumerians may be different, but together we can face anything. Solara smiled softly. Then let us continue to face it together. There are challenges ahead, but I have learned that trust and understanding are more powerful than fear. And that is something I will carry forward for Lumeria and for our partnership with humanity. As they walked in silence, the soft melody of the music box drifted through the palace once more, a reminder of the small gesture that had started it all. One simple gift, a tune from Earth, had sparked curiosity, understanding, and courage. It had begun a journey that would test their intelligence, their bravery, and their willingness to embrace the unknown. The weeks that followed the Krylax border incident were tense but filled with cautious optimism. Lumeria had proven its capability to defend itself without open conflict, thanks to the combined ingenuity of its people and the strategies shared by Captain Elias Gray. Yet, the shadow of the Krylax lingered. Their empire was vast and resourceful, and their curiosity about humans, though laced with suspicion, was growing. Elias spent his days in the palace observing, advising, and learning. Each meeting, each experiment, each discussion strengthened the partnership between humans and Lumerians. And Princess Solara continued to surprise him with her courage and insight. She had grown more confident, more willing to make bold decisions, and more willing to embrace humanity in ways few Lumerians ever did. One morning, the Palace Council received urgent news. A Krylax delegation, led by their chief strategist, had arrived at the borders with a formal request for negotiation. Their message was firm but cautious, signaling that they had observed Lumeria's defenses and wished to avoid unnecessary conflict. Solara convened the council immediately. "This is our chance," she said. "The Krylax have seen what collaboration with humans can achieve. Now we can show them that trust, innovation, and courage are greater than fear and suspicion." Elias nodded beside her. "This is an opportunity to solidify our alliance, Princess. Humans have much to offer, and together we can demonstrate our strength and cooperation." The council debated the terms, their voices a mixture of caution and skepticism. Elias offered insights, explaining human negotiation strategies and the importance of demonstrating goodwill while maintaining readiness. Solara listened carefully, weighing the council's opinions, but ultimately making the decision herself, a decision guided by logic, courage, and the lessons she had learned from humans. "We will meet them," she declared. "We will show them that humanity and Lumeria together are a force not of aggression, but of intelligence, creativity, and understanding." The delegation arrived in elegant ships that glided silently across the borders. Their emissaries were tall, armored, and imposing, their expressions unreadable. The Krylax chief strategist, a figure of authority and keen intellect, regarded the humans and Lumerians with a mixture of suspicion and intrigue. Elias and Solara were prepared. They had designed a presentation of joint Lumerian-human ingenuity, defenses that moved and adapted, surveillance systems that anticipated threats, and innovations that combined human adaptability with Lumerian precision. They also included a demonstration of cultural exchange, a collection of Earth music, art and literature alongside Lumerian creative achievements. The music box, now a symbol of human thoughtfulness and connection, sat prominently at the center. Its melody was faint, yet its presence carried meaning. An unspoken reminder that even the simplest gestures could spark understanding across worlds. The Krylax watched silently as Solara spoke. "We have faced challenges together," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Lumerians and humans have collaborated to create solutions that honor life, intelligence, and creativity. We do not seek conflict, yet we are prepared. We value trust, understanding, and innovation above aggression." The chief strategist's eyes flicked to Elias, noting his calm confidence and the sincerity in his presence. "Humans," he said, "your methods are unconventional, yet effective. It seems you have earned the respect of Lumerians." "This is unexpected." Elias bowed slightly. Our ways may differ, but humans value connection and creativity. We bring not only knowledge, but adaptability and insight. Collaboration allows us to overcome challenges together, rather than through conflict alone. The Krylax delegation exchanged glances, a mixture of skepticism and awe. They had anticipated rigid Lumerian responses, not a demonstration of combined ingenuity and culture. They had expected diplomacy, but not a bridge of understanding forged through thoughtfulness and creativity. Solara stepped forward, her glowing eyes steady. We invite you to witness our alliance not as a threat, but as a model. Humans and Lumerians working together have solved challenges that neither could face alone. Let this be proof that trust, courage, and collaboration are greater than fear. For a long moment, the Krylax strategist said nothing. Then slowly he inclined his head. Your actions and your collaboration are admirable. Perhaps humans are more than we expected. Elias felt a quiet thrill. A single word of acknowledgement from the Krylax strategist carried more weight than any weapon, any treaty, or any display of strength. It was recognition, not of domination, but of understanding. Over the next hours, discussions continued. Humans shared insights, Lumerians demonstrated their technological marvels, and the Krylax observed, gradually recognizing the value of cooperation. By the end of the day, an agreement was reached. The Krylax would respect Lumerian borders and enter into limited trade and cultural exchanges with humanity, under carefully monitored conditions. Solara turned to Elias, her eyes glowing softly. Captain Gray, this is beyond anything I imagined. Not only have we avoided conflict, but we have created understanding across species. Your presence, your ideas, they have made a difference, Elias smiled. And your courage, Princess, made it possible. Humans can guide, suggest, and innovate, but it takes leaders like you to act boldly and inspire others. You have changed the course of your civilization, and perhaps ours as well. The two of them walked to the palace gardens as the twin suns set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Floating plants glimmered in the soft light, and the soft, familiar melody of the music box echoed faintly from the chamber nearby. Solara picked up the music box and held it between them. Do you see this, Elias? One small, simple gift, and look what it has begun. A bridge between worlds, respect where there was suspicion and hope where there was doubt. Elias nodded. Yes. Sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest meaning. This music box, it was never just a gift. It was the start of understanding, of connection, and of trust. Solara smiled, her expression radiant. Then let it remain as a reminder not just for me, but for Lumeria. That understanding and compassion are as powerful as technology, as courage, as strategy. As the stars emerged above the floating city, Elias reflected on the journey. From a simple meeting and a small music box, a partnership had grown. It was a story of curiosity, courage, creativity, and trust. Humans had shown that ingenuity and heart could influence civilizations. Lumerians had demonstrated wisdom, vision, and the capacity to embrace change. In that moment, it became clear to both Elias and Solara that this was only the beginning. Their work would continue, further exchanges of knowledge, culture, and technology. Yet for now they had achieved something extraordinary, peace and understanding that transcended fear, suspicion, and difference. Solara turned to Elias. Captain Gray, will you stay with us a while longer? There is so much more to learn, to explore, to share. Humanity and Lumeria, together there is so much potential. Elias felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known. I would be honored, Princess. Together we can see just how far this bridge can go. The music box chimed softly, its melody echoing across the palace. It had traveled from Earth, a small human-made instrument, and yet it had carried far more than sound. It had carried connection, understanding, and a spark of possibility that neither species could have imagined at the outset. Outside, the stars shone over Lumeria's city, their light reflecting in the calm waters of floating gardens. Inside, humans and Lumerians shared ideas, strategies, and dreams. The bridge between their worlds was no longer fragile. It was strong, resilient, and filled with promise. And though the universe remained vast and filled with unknown challenges, Elias Gray and Princess Solara knew one truth. When courage meets creativity, when curiosity meets wisdom, and when hearts and minds are open, anything is possible. The small music box had sparked a chain of events that reshaped destinies, bridged galaxies, and proved something simple, yet profound. One thoughtful gesture, one small gift, could indeed change the universe. As the night deepened over Lumeria, Elias and Solara stood side by side, looking toward the stars, toward the future. They had crossed boundaries of species and culture, and in doing so, they had discovered that the greatest power of all was the ability to understand and connect with others. For the first time in both human and Lumerian history, hope, collaboration, and friendship shone brighter than fear, doubt, or uncertainty, and that light, once kindled by a simple gift, would continue to grow, reaching farther than anyone could have imagined. The story of a music box, of trust, courage, and understanding had reached its beginning, not an end, but the dawn of a new era where humans and Lumerians would walk together among the stars.